We're now joined by Nina Santos. Thank you very much for the interview. As you are actually traveling a lot around the world, what are the regions that you think are most sensitive to the clash of generations?
It depends what you call the clash of generations. First of all, I'm going to premise what I say with the fact that being exactly halfway towards retirement, I consider myself as unbiased and perhaps qualified to make a couple of comments on both sides of the age boundary. If you consider the clash of generations to be the clash of, say, new technology versus old, or just the youth versus the older generation, obviously that is a developing world problem as much as it is a developed world problem. But of course it manifests itself in completely different ways depending on the level of development of those economies. We've talked here at the St.Gallen Symposium this year, especially in a panel that I moderated, on the sense of change that is coming up about disruptive technologies. I think that is where we're going to see the clash of generations really manifest itself quite obviously. Young people obviously treat their data in a completely different way. They surrender it on Facebook willingly. They have very, very different expectations about what they think the technological world is going to do with that data, whereas if you speak to people on the other end of the age divide, they are far, far more reluctant to surrender their data. So in the technology world, in business, the clash of generations is very, very obvious there, especially when it comes to consumer trends. And then in the developing world, we have the clash of generations in the sense of the jobless numbers, huge unemployment, and a mismatch for skill sets for young people that continues to be a problem today.
So then in general, what do you think about facing that topic here in St. Gallen this year?
We've had some really interesting discussions, especially from heads of companies, people who are on boards of many different companies, talking about how, again, that mismatch of the skill set of graduates, and that's particularly important here because a lot of the people here are business graduates, and perhaps they're representative of the elite. It may be easier for them to get jobs, and maybe harder for some of their peers at other places to get jobs, especially if they haven't had the chance at higher education. But we keep hearing this issue of the mismatch in skill set. I think one way of overcoming the clash of generations, if indeed there is a clash at all, is probably to get governments and companies to have a much, much more thorough dialogue about matching the educational background of some students in countries right around the world with the jobs that are on offer. Basically making sure that government policy follows the economics that we're seeing out there in the private and public sector.
We already had the honor to welcome you here in St. Gallen for the last St. Gallen Symposium. What is it that brought you here again?
I love this event, and I'm just going to say to the organisers, I love this event, I love being part of it. It's great meeting not only industry leaders firsthand in a very informal setting, but also to talk to the young leaders of tomorrow, because, and this is where the clash of generations really comes to a fore, it is actually young people and relatively young disruptive technologies and things that are changing the behaviour of people across all generations. And even by speaking to the young people here, you get as much interesting knowledge and insight, and you learn as much as you do from speaking to people who've had years of knowledge in industry. And this is a unique forum to speak to both of those sides of the age divide, get them to talk to each other, and they both learn from each other. I found it hugely rewarding.
Thank you very much for the interview.